Have you ever heard of a story that starts out simple but ends in a way no one could have imagined? Then get ready, because this one will shake everything you thought you knew about status, power, and courage. That night, all eyes were on Helena Suarez, widow, 69, a billionaire, a woman who not only inherited a real estate empire after her husband's death, but multiplied it with intelligence, strength, and a visionary business mind. But what caught everyone's attention that night wasn't Helena's dress, or her glowing jewelry, or the high-end restaurant where the business dinner was taking place. It was the man by her side, Marcelo Ferreira, 36, her personal driver, simple, discreet, impeccable uniform, focused eyes, respectful posture, not a lawyer, not an advisor, not a startup CEO, a driver. When they arrived, the whole room seemed to freeze for a second. "Good evening, everyone," said Helena calmly. "This is Marcelo. He's with me tonight." Julio Costa, one of the older investors at the table, raised an eyebrow. "Driver? As your guest? That's new?" "Marcelo is more than he appears, Julio," she replied with a slight smile. "You'll understand tonight." The table was full of influential names, businessmen, bankers, investors, people used to million-dollar deals. And there was a man among them who had never stepped into such a space. As the evening unfolded, talk of mergers, yields, and new ventures filled the air. Marcelo remained quiet, listening, observing, until Helena pulled him into the conversation. "Marcelo, what do you think of Roberto's proposal?" He hesitated for a moment, then answered, "I think it has potential, but it's focused on already saturated areas. The growth margin there is much smaller than it seems." Roberto Andrade chuckled dismissively. "Interesting. And where's that analysis from?" "From the meetings I attended, from internal reports I studied with Helena's permission, and from public data, EBGE and city records." The table went quiet. The answer was serious, well-informed. Rafael Borges, known for his arrogance, didn't like the tone. "With all due respect, Helena, isn't the guy your driver, or did he suddenly become an analyst?" Before Helena could respond, Marcelo did. "I'm still the driver, but I've never stopped being someone who learns fast." Rafael kept pushing. "Right. I just don't know if this is a business dinner or a motivational seminar." That's when Marcelo took a USB stick out of his pocket. "I brought something. If I may, I'd like to show it." Helena nodded. The waiter took the USB to the AV team. Moments later, slides appeared on the screen. A bold urban expansion plan, focused on neglected areas in the city's west, sustainable construction, job creation, fully detailed. Carlos Montenegro widened his eyes. "Who did this?" Helena pointed at Marcelo. "He did." "You're saying this guy made that?" "Yes," Marcelo confirmed. "At night, on my own time. I've been studying for months. Everything I've learned came from watching, listening, reading." Carlos asked, "Do you have a degree?" "High school, but knowledge doesn't depend on diplomas. It depends on thirst." Silence fell again. Some were ashamed, others impressed. Julio finally asked, "Why show this now?" Marcelo replied, "Because sometimes vision comes from where no one expects." Helena stood and said, "The business world is filled with repeated voices. I prefer those who think differently. Marcelo is one of them. Starting today, he'll lead our new urban expansion branch." Roberto murmured, "This is madness." Marcelo looked at him. "Madness is thinking only people with fancy last names have great ideas. That's why so many businesses fail. They ignore the ones who watch from outside." That night, no one left the same. The man they all ignored didn't just pitch a project. He changed a mindset. But what they didn't know was that Helena had an even deeper reason for bringing him, a secret. And what came next changed everything. Dinner was over, but the weight of what Marcelo had done still hung in the air. The room was quiet, as if everyone was trying to process what had just happened. Marcelo calmly sat down beside Helena again. Most people thought that presentation was the peak of the night, but Helena knew the real moment had yet to come. She stood, raised her glass and said, "Gentlemen, before we wrap up, there's something I need to share, something that may change how you see tonight." She looked at Marcelo. "Are you ready?" Marcelo nodded with a soft smile. Roberto whispered to Carlos, "What now? She's going to announce he's her heir?" Helena heard it. She answered directly, "Yes, in a way." Julio stared. "What do you mean, in a way?" Helena stepped into the center of the room. "Marcelo is not just my driver or a promising analyst. He's my son." Shock. Raphael burst out, "You're joking." "I'm not," Helena said. "I had him when I was young, before I met my late husband. I was forced to give him up in a time when being a single mother was shameful. Years later, I found him. He was already a man. I didn't want to reconnect with money. I wanted to reconnect with truth." Carlos asked, "So, this was all a test?" Marcelo stood. "No test. A chance. I could have said no, but I wanted to learn." Helena's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't just want my son by my side. I wanted him to be proud of himself. And tonight, he taught me more than most of you have in years." Roberto folded his arms. "But he has no formal education. You'd give him a division of your empire." "Yes," Helena said, "and more." She pulled an envelope from her folder. "I'm officially transferring 30% of my holdings to him. From today, he is my partner and direct heir." Stunned silence. Julio said, "That's brave." Raphael muttered, "That's risky." Carlos added, "That's fair." Helena, "The world must change. Talent must be recognized. It starts tonight." Marcelo stepped up. "I know some still see me as just the driver. That's okay. But remember, those who drive often dream of building roads." Raphael tried to recover. "Well, I guess we have a new partner." Marcelo offered his hand. "I'm not here to replace anyone. I'm here to add." Julio shook it. "Welcome to the jungle, my friend." Roberto said, "Still crazy, but sometimes crazy makes history. Good luck." Carlos raised his glass. "To a new era." The night had begun as a business. It ended in legacy. Later, outside by the car, Helena and Marcelo walked side by side. "Mom," he said, eyes wet, "I never thought it would go this far." "I didn't either," she replied. "But when talent meets courage, everything changes." He smiled up at the sky. "Thanks for believing in me." "Thank you," she said, "for teaching me it's never too late to start again." And now to you listening, how many brilliant people have you ignored just because they didn't wear the right suit? Think about it. And if this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to remember that greatness doesn't always come in shiny packaging. Like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments, have you ever seen something like this?